Peace and blessings. This is Raisa Ghiwala, the divorced Muslim coach. I'm here today with a very special guest that I'm waiting to come on. And we're going to be talking about our topic of anxious anger and how it manifests in our relationships and in our lives. So I'm just going to wait for a bit for my colleague Melissa to join. And until then, I'm just going to hang here. And if you're watching this on the replay, I've been really hanging out a lot more outside and taking advantage of the wonderful weather that we're having, especially here in California. Hey, there she is. Okay. So let's see how we're going to get. Okay. We're going to hop on here with Melissa. Just waiting for her to connect. Welcome if you're hopping on. Khulud. Assalamualaikum.
How are you?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah. How's the connection?
I think it's good. Is it too dark?
There, yeah, I'm just waiting for it to position. There you go. Wait, that was good.
Yes?
Yeah.
Better?
Better. Yeah. How are you doing, Melissa?
Alhamdulillah. How are you today?
Great. Alhamdulillah. I was just commenting that I'm just really loving to be outdoors, and getting to have these conversations outdoors is even more wonderful.
Absolutely. When the weather clears up and it starts to, the change in the weather and it gets warmer, it's so nice to be able to enjoy outside.
Absolutely. And so without further ado, I wanted to introduce you. This is Melissa Frost-Ford. She is a Back to the Filtra mentor, educator, and coach, just like I am. And so her passion and her expertise is all around anxiety and panic attacks. And she really has so much passion for helping other women through her own journey of coming to inner peace and tranquility. And I hope I did justice to you, but I would love to actually hear from you, from your own words of what do you mean about this journey? Because a lot of times what we hear about anxiety and about panic attacks is more of coping with them, dealing with them, and putting a Band-Aid on or medicating or whatever you need to do because of this experience of anxiety and panic that you're going through. So I want to hear from you before we get into this topic, your journey and your experience of are you able to better cope with them, or is it something that you've overcome, or what does that look like?
So I see it now more as thriving through it. It's not something to sort of have to fix. We're not broken. And we were given all of these emotions, like we're meant to feel all the emotions. So for me, instead of kind of attacking it, not wanting to have it, fighting it, and trying to change the nature of who I am, which is somebody who has anxiety. I have anxiety, and my anxiety in my life has manifested as panic attacks. And that's okay. That's my journey. And that is where I'm meant to be. And I'm not fighting it anymore. I'm not trying not to have anxiety anymore, and just allowing myself to feel through those moments, to experience it. And subhanAllah, when you're not trying to fix it, instead of being this massive tsunami coming at you, it ends up just being a little wave. And it passes, and it's safe, and you realize that there's lessons to learn from every emotion we have, including anxiety, and it's not something we have to fix. It's just something we go through. It's part of our human experience. And knowing that I'm very passionate about it, because I feel like a lot of people are trying to change this. They're trying to say, you know what, anxiety is bad. We need to fix this. We need to medicate you. We need you not to feel that. But it's not possible. After years of medication, after years of therapy, nothing was working, because we are meant to feel. We're meant to experience our thoughts. Our thoughts come and we are meant to experience those, and then they pass, just like a wave in the ocean.
Beautiful. I'm just absorbing and soaking all that in that you just shared with us. And as I was hearing you, I just kept thinking of a beautiful experience of surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what this whole life, this dunya is about. It's about surrendering. But then we kind of have been taught, as in society, just in how we're raised, that like we're not meant to experience certain things and certain emotions are bad. But they're not bad. It's just our thinking. And we're meant to have all of this. And we're meant to have these because if we were happy all the time, we wouldn't be turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We would just be we would forget because that's the nature of humans, right?
That's a wonderful point. It's a wonderful point. And I just want to say welcome to all of our guests here, Walud, Eat Sleepy, and XOCHI. Thank you for joining. And XOCHITL is saying, mashallah, so many people need to hear this. And she's right. Like, you just have such a different, and I would say fresh perspective around understanding anxiety and going through life. When you have anxiety, when you have, panic, what it is, what it isn't. And some of the things I'm getting from you also is like, it seems like you're just embracing your humanness. You're embracing your human nature and not seeing there's something wrong with you or something that needs to be fixed. And you're kind of like, when you talk about, I don't know if I shared this with you or someone else yesterday, it's like riding the wave like a surfer versus going against the wave, or or going against this tidal wave is a different type of experience, right?
It's so different. And for me, I spent so long like pushing against that wave, like just determined that there's something wrong with me. Anxiety shouldn't happen. I shouldn't feel this way. And you go to some people, and unfortunately the narrative out there is that it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. And so it just becomes this massive like tsunami against you that you're trying so hard to push against. And that's not how we're meant to be. We're naturally meant to go with the flow. We're naturally meant to feel. We're naturally meant to have anxiety. It's there for a reason. There's so many uses for it, but we don't see them when we're trying to fight against it. We don't see the wisdom there. We spend so much of our time doing something that's against our nature that we become exhausted. I remember like after, years of it, I would sleep. I would sleep and I would sleep and I would sleep and I would wake up and I'd feel tired and then I'd sleep again, wake up feeling tired. Why? It was literally like, even though I physically wasn't doing anything, it was like I was mentally going against that wave, and it was just so much. But when we realize how our thoughts actually work and we surrender to that, it just flows. And it doesn't mean that things don't happen. Like things still happen. Anxiety still happens. Tests in our life become difficult. Like some parts of our life are super hard, but we're able to experience it knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge, not us, and that we are meant to be here right now. So what I'm experiencing is meant for me. What am I going to learn? How am I going to take this? And how am I going to go out there and benefit from this, inshallah?
Yeah, beautiful. I think this is a great segue into our topic for today of anxious anger. And what does that mean? How would you describe that? And thank you guys for the hearts. Melissa, everyone's giving you hearts because you're really touching us in your words and in your journey and how you're explaining this, because so many people are crippled, just crippled. And I know you can understand that, how
Absolutely.
anxiety can cripple you in terms of your tests, in terms of your experiences. So thank you, Jazakallah khair, for being here, and welcome. Yes, Zara is saying wisdom, absolutely, yes. And you know what? Melissa is sharing a lot of her wisdom with us, and you have your own wisdom too. Each one of us has our own wisdom to be able to navigate the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us for his divine wisdom, his divine planning. He knows why we get what we need and what we're to learn and how we're to grow and evolve from that. Yeah, and Abu Hasuk was saying, very well said, feeling the same. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let me stop talking, and I want you to share with us about what is anxious anger? What does it look like? And how does it show up in your life?
So this thing that kind of hit me with a ton of bricks. A friend actually, it was the one that said something, and it just sort of opened up a floodgate for me. And I didn't realize how much it was showing up in my life, how I would be having these moments where it was this buildup of just so much anger. It was a burning anger. It was like this raging anger, and nothing anybody could do around me was right. Everything was wrong. I was grumpy. I was miserable, and it would just build and build and build and build. And when I learned about how our feelings are coming from our thinking and how all of this works, I remember hearing that when we're feeling an emotion, we should just allow ourselves to feel it. And if we don't, it's going to show up one way or another. So for whatever reason, I put it in my head. I made up this like story that, okay, so if I'm having moments of extreme anger, that means I've suppressed anger somewhere. And if I'm having moments of extreme sadness, I've suppressed sadness somewhere. And I didn't realize that, it's not that clinical. So much of what we know, especially when we've been in the world of like psychiatry and psychology, it's very like clinical and in a box. But it doesn't work that way. Our thoughts don't work that way. They flow and they change and it's evolving. And so I was experiencing this raging anger, and I was even needing to go away from people because I was just too mad, and I was overstepping boundaries, and I shouldn't be doing that. And I didn't know where it was coming from. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent me a moment, and it really changed my whole perspective on this. So I went to the park with my kids. It was nighttime, and there was a fire. My neighbors were going to do some fireworks. And so they told us to go to the edge of the park. So, we were very, very, very far, I thought. And they went into the middle and they were like lighting these fireworks. And all of a sudden, it just, I talked before, if anybody heard about like, when we have a panic attack, it's that fight or flight response. Well, subhanAllah, we're meant to have that fight or flight response sometimes. And in this case, I was meant to have it because I needed to move fast. All of a sudden, in a split second, the fireworks went from going like this to being sideways and spinning and just randomly shooting out in every direction. And they were like coming straight at my kids. And in that moment, I was just, in that, quick fix, right? My body went into that, fight or flight. I grabbed my daughter, I grabbed my son, I went to put them behind this barrier that I found. But my son, he let go. And he ran into the dark, into the woods, and a firework literally exploded right where he was, and I didn't know where he was. And subhanAllah, in that moment, I was making dua. My son came back. He came back. I don't know where he went. I don't know what he was doing. SubhanAllah, he came back. And I remember going home, and I was shaking. And instead of allowing myself to be in the fact that what just happened, like that was intense. Like I had basically that panic attack experience, that fight or flight, but it wasn't a panic attack. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really protected me because I still don't know how that firework didn't hit him. And instead of allowing myself to be with that anxiety, I was like, nope, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to deal with this. I'm not going to feel this. And so for the next 2 or 3 days, anytime it would come into my mind, even though I had started this understanding, I understood this, I felt it was too much. I felt like I can't deal with these thoughts. No. And I was pushing them away, and I was pushing them away, and I was trying so hard to distract myself. And what I didn't see was happening was the more I was pushing it away, the more I was getting really grumpy and really irritable and really agitated, and just everything was wrong. And I was just so mad. And it got to the point that I had a friend, and we were talking, and this friend overstepped a boundary. Like they said something, it wasn't okay. It actually wasn't okay. And instead of me dealing with it and saying, hey, you know what? You can't say that. That's not okay. I yelled and I yelled and I yelled and I yelled. And I was like in this rage, and I couldn't stop yelling. And my friend, subhanAllah, I don't know, maybe all the time of me talking about this, but subhanAllah, the wisdom that came out of her in that moment was, this is not anger. This is your anxiety from a few days ago. I feel like that's what's coming up for you. You haven't been dealing with that. And in that moment, subhanAllah, it kind of flipped for me. I was like, you know what? If I'm suppressing anxiety, it's not necessarily going to come out as a panic attack. It can come out as anger because I'm suppressing it. I'm not trying to feel it. And I literally went back to a moment in my youth when my brother was really, really, really unwell, and he was having these seizures, and he was sitting on a chair and he started to seizure. And I was really young. I was like maybe 11 or 12, and he fell off the chair. And we ended up needing to call 911. I ended up in the hospital with him. The adults around me couldn't even remember how to dial 911, and I was like coordinating. And I remember the same subhanAllah thing happened. It was days of me not wanting to think about it, not wanting to think of him in the hospital, not wanting to think of those difficult, to feel that anxiety that was there. And I had a similar moment where I was with my father. I had started to yell at him, which at that time I wasn't yelling at him like he was my dad. I would be scared to yell at him, and I was yelling, screaming. And he said to me, he said, "This is not your anger. He said, I've been waiting for you to express this anxiety because you've been anxious for days, but you're not allowing yourself to feel it." And in both of these moments, what ended up happening was just sobs, like shaking your shoulder sobs. And subhanAllah, back then, because of where my knowledge was at, because of my age, everything, just where my wisdom was at, I didn't learn the lesson. But subhanAllah, after this, I really was like, okay, I see it now. Like, if I'm suppressing my emotions, they've got to come out somewhere. They're just going to come out. And I put myself in a position where I'm potentially becoming the oppressor in some situations. And that's not where I want to be, and that's not okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us that the Prophet ﷺ, somebody came to him and he asked him for advice. And the Prophet ﷺ said, don't get angry. And multiple times he asked him and he kept saying, don't get angry. And subhanAllah, when we allow ourselves to feel anger or to feel anxiety, we allow it to flow, we can be in a position where we're feeling anger, but we're not getting angry. But the getting angry is when we're not allowing ourselves to feel, we're suppressing, and then the anger comes out in oppression. And that is what we're not wanting to do. We don't want to be oppressing. We want to be in a position where we're pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that burning rage in those moments, we're too up here to really be able to kind of cool ourselves down. And so it's really a good lesson in the fact that feel what you need to feel in the moment you need to feel it. Allow yourself to be in the place of feeling. We are not robots. We're not meant to just sort of be at this like Zen. We can't. It doesn't exist. We're human. We have thoughts. And it's just really important for us to be able to see that because it makes us more self-accountable in situations.
Wow. Yeah. I love that how you ended that at the end of makes us more self-accountable, because whether we realize it or not, we have to account for our actions or our behavior regardless of how we are feeling. We can't justify our behavior based on, well, I was feeling angry at this or that. I got a phone call, so I paused. Yeah, and so we have to account this world or the next world, for our actions. And in the next world, we won't even be able to justify it, right? So so I just love how you tied all that together of owning your own emotions, owning your feelings, owning your actions. And yesterday I mentioned that as well, is looking at it like you talked about, like a signal or a wake up call to go within and see, like, this is happening in me. Like, yeah, there's stuff going on the outside, but this what I'm feeling is happening within me. So I have to take a look at it. I have to acknowledge it. I'm the one who's feeling it, right?
Yeah.
And whatever actions or behavior that come out of this body, I have to own, right? Because it's very easy when we're in those heated feelings that can become very justifiable in snapping at people, saying things we don't mean, treating people in a way that we don't want to. We feel guilty or regret it later on. And I love how you just explained all that. I think the next thing is like, and let us know, guys, like, what, based on what Melissa is saying, what questions, if this, it sounds, in theory, it always sounds, oh yeah, it makes sense, right? In theory, it always sounds like it makes sense. And I know that you've experienced this as well because you have gone through your stages as you've been evolving in your understanding of what's happening underneath when you're feeling anxiety and panic and anger. Um, so I guess what I'm asking is two things. One is, what's the physical manifestation that that causes our behavior that's going on to help us understand that, and then what? How can we help ourselves? Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah. Sorry.
Somebody had a question. Um,
Mhm.
okay. Let's talk about what you just talked about. And we'll come back to your question. XOCHITL. Okay.
So the physical, so what physically happens to you in a panic attack? Like when we're anxious all the time, we're not living at a level like normal people are here with anxiety. And when you're anxious all the time, you're way up here. Like your anxiety, you don't really come down to the average person's anxiety because your thoughts are just anxious, anxious. You're just constantly in this anxious state. And when our bodies are hyperactivated like that, there are hormones that are released. There's so much happening in the body, in the physical body, that's being affected by this. And subhanAllah, so that can lead to us having a panic attack. And a panic attack, which I was slightly explaining before, it's that fight or flight response. Like when I was in that moment, I was meant to run with my kids. I needed to not go like firework coming at me, where do I go? Like I just moved and I moved really fast and he disappeared and I had to function really fast. And everything kind of goes slow motion. So in a panic attack, that same thing is happening. Those hormones that are released for us to react are released. And they seem like they come sometimes out of the blue, but they don't because we're already in this state of just anxious thinking and anxious thinking and anxious thinking. And we're constantly worrying and thinking and suppressing. Like there's a lot of suppression there because when we don't allow ourselves to feel anxiety, it ends up becoming this massive monster of anxiety instead of a manageable level of anxiety, which we're meant to have. It feels huge. And so we're at this level. We have this fight or flight response, which sometimes feels like it comes out of nowhere. There's so many chemicals that are released. Your insulin goes up, your heart rate is going to go faster, you'll start to sweat. You can feel like you're having a heart attack. It can be a lot of pressure on your chest. One of the things that I find funny is that you feel like you can't breathe, but it's actually because you forget to breathe out. It's not even breathing in. You're going, and you're not breathing out. Like you don't do that. You're just sucking it all in, and then that makes you very dizzy, and it can make you tingly, and you can like lose sensation in parts of your body. So it's a massive physical response, and it is something that does happen. It's not something that is just it's actually something physical that is happening to you, but it is based on thought. It started with a thought, and it most of the time, at least for me and my experience with it, because of how extreme they were before and how I'm able to function through them now, I can really see that subhanallah, when we just allow ourselves in the moment to be and give ourselves that grace of, you know what, I'm okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me. I'm okay. He knows what I need right now. That means I'm okay. Just you can breathe through it. You can breathe through it.
Mm, yeah. It's hard to remember that in the moment if you don't understand how you operate and how you work. Like you keep talking about thought, and you and I know this because we've been deep in the understanding of how our thoughts affect our feelings, our emotions, and our actions, right? And how we work psychologically. And so, but when you don't understand that or know that, it's we could lose sight of that, to even remember that, oh yeah, Allah is with me. Like, yeah, I'm okay.
Anything.
Yeah.
Your mind feels fuzzy and crazy, and you can't. The thoughts are kind of going all. It's like it's this massive experience. So if you don't know that, and you're always told if you're having a panic attack, you need to do something. You need to change this. You need to take this medication. You feel like I don't know what to do to stop this, and all you want to do is stop it. But the problem is, it's one of those things that once you've hit that peak of a panic attack, your body has to go through it. It's released. Like the hormones have gone, whew, like they're out. So you have to just ride through it. And I find sometimes in the peak of it, it's very hard to see. But as you come down and start to get, because you'll slowly come down from it, you get to a state where, inshallah, with this understanding, you can go, Ya Allah, help me. Ya Allah, help me. You know, turn to him, ask him for guidance, ask him to help you through these things because he's the only one that can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. He created our bodies. He created how they function. And so it's so important for us not to think that there's a cure out there for things. We need to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost and ask him for the wisdom. Ask him to bring things, you know, into your life because everybody's story will be different. And what's going to help you might not help me in what we need to experience. But the truths of this life are the same. The way we function is the same. You know, the way our thoughts work are the same. You know, the nature of this dunya is the same. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring us exactly what we need in the moment we need to see it. Like I never thought like a firework like coming at my children would change something so drastically in my life, but it really, really did.
Yeah, yeah. It just comes to mind like we think we know everything about ourselves and our life, but what do we really know? You know, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like that saying, well, who would have thunk, right? Who would have thought that? But yeah, and you know, XOCHITL has a question here. And guys, like if this is resonating with you, this is making sense, or it's not making sense, let us know in the comments what questions you have. She's saying, could having a lot of anxiety affect memory? Been having a lot of anxiety lately, and my memory seems affected.
Yeah, so I used to feel that way as well. I think it's just because we are so busy fighting ourselves. Like you're so like I would be so busy trying not to be anxious that I didn't have time to think about other things. So everything else felt so overwhelming. I was struggling to I literally would like walk to the kitchen to get, I don't know, a cup. And I'd be standing in the kitchen going, I don't know why I'm here. And it was literally maybe like 10 steps away. And I'm like, why am I standing here? And then I would cry because I would feel so frustrated. And then I would get anxious. Okay, why did I forget? And then the anxiety from that would build and the story would build just because I was just fighting my nature. I was fighting myself so much. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. When you're fighting yourself, your thoughts are kind of going and there's so many programs out there. They tell you, you know, you need to change your thinking. And so for me, I was like, okay, feeling anxious, I need to change that. I need to change that. I need to fix it. And that in itself, because you're so focused on that, makes it very hard for us to absorb other things. It, you know, school becomes challenging, you know, learning becomes challenging, even just your day-to-day activities, driving becomes challenging because I spent so much time fighting my innate nature and just allowing myself to feel. And and for the amount of times I tried to change my thoughts, I'm like, this is not working. Like I'm failing it. I felt like I was failing at something that everybody was telling me to do. But then when I realized that we're not meant to change those thoughts, like that's not what we're
And it's
meant to do.
possible, right? Like you having the understanding now of what thought is and how it works. We can't control and fight it and manipulate it and change it this way, turn it that way, you know, squash this
Yeah.
one, bring this one up. We can't, it's like, it's uncontainable. Thought is one of those things that's uncontainable. So, and not knowing that, yeah, we buy into what people say, like just change your thinking, right? And change your mindset and you'll be fine. And
Yeah.
you find that it just doesn't work that way because we're still feeling.
Yeah. And it's just an impossible task. And then there, you know, you kind of feel like you're failing at something, but yet it's going against your nature. It really is because if you try to like think right now what your next thought will be, you have no idea what it'll be. None of us do. That's the unforeseen. None of us know where our thoughts are going to go. And there's a bunch of thoughts going on at once. That's the other thing. Like there's so much that goes on in our brain in one moment that you don't even need to change your thought. There's so many thoughts there already. You know, just pick one.
It's like a firecracker going boom, 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 you know,
Yeah.
like a thought storm, right? Like you
You,
have like this thought storm. We talk about riding the wave in the storm. And when you're in this thought storm, it does feel like a whirlwind and just feels so heavy, like you said, when you have all these racing thoughts weighing you down, exhausting you and draining you emotionally and physically.
Oh, it's absolutely physical. It comes out in your body.
Mm.
It makes you tired. You don't function well. You don't really want to do much. Like it just kind of, because it's a very, it's almost like you're constantly running a marathon with your thinking, trying to counter it. And then on top of that, you'll have panic attacks every once in a while, or anxiety attacks, which are basically just like a whole bunch of thoughts that kind of go up to a point. You don't have that full fight or flight, but there are releases of hormones. Anytime that's happening, our bodies are tired. Like it's exhausting. You know,
Yeah,
the fight flight response is extreme. Like so much is happening to your body. It's not meant to happen all the time. It's meant to
right.
happen in emergency.
That's why I wanted to get into next. I just wanted to welcome Sheikh Majid, official Ukhti Wellness and Modern Divorce Resolution. Thank you for joining us. And XOCHITL, I hope that answered your question, that was helpful for you. Let us know. And I wanted to get into that, Melissa, about this. You know, when you're actually in a emergency situation where the emergency alert system in our body kicks in to do what we need to do to fight, to flee, or to freeze and hide, or whatever we need to do in those emergency situations, and our body goes into like it automatically releases what it needs to release and shifts into that mode where we can preserve our life, right? And we're not meant to, and it's like an overhaul. It's kind of reminds me of like the whole transformation that Incredible Hulk has. If you know, and if you watch Incredible Hulk, what he used to experience when he used to get angry, there's this whole cascade of chemicals and neurotransmitters and hormones that are going on in your body for you to survive, right? And you're right, we're not meant to live in survival mode. It burns us out. It burns out our operating system and our all the other functions of the systems that we have in our body, such as immunity, such as health, such as wellness, such as our cardiovascular system and all of thyroid system, all of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is going on here? Where most people are living in that constant state as a constant, rather than, you know, like a 20-minute burst. And I think it's like, what, 72 hours that your body, you know, resets itself to be able to, you know, handle another one. But when we're in this constant state of fight, flight, or freeze, or this constant state of like this, the body overworked and drained and exhausted, how do we approach that?
I think, you know, subhanAllah, like with this understanding, like when you work at this understand when you sorry, not work at, when you get this understanding and the insight comes and the clarity comes, because really there's no work to it, you are able to more listen to your body. And for me, I remember like just going, there was something telling me something's off, because you are excreting so many hormones. Your body is doing things like that are not normally meant to be happening like on a weekly basis or on a every few day basis. Like this is meant to happen like once in a blue moon in your life. So our body, our physical body naturally has like a reaction. And for me, I remember just when I was coming down and starting to see I was starting to understand that our feelings are coming from our thought. I was in that space. I was still feeling my body was very achy. It felt very exhausted. It felt more tired than it should be. And it's really important for us to, you know, remember the sunnah of eating. Remember what the Prophet ﷺ told us about food. And it's also good for us to go and get your blood work checked. See how your vitamin levels are, your just everything. Because for me specifically, I went to the doctor after like this period and I was like, I feel really tired. And he took my blood work and I came back a few days later and he goes, I don't know how you're standing. And I'm like, why? He's like, you don't have any vitamin D in your system at all. And he's like, I seriously don't know how you're standing right now. I was like, and this is a very, like, he was a very clinical doctor. He was very like, you know, and he's never spoken to me like that before. And, you know, subhanAllah, like there were things in my body because of this these panic attacks that we're really depleted. And so it's very important for us to, you know, listen to our bodies, to really kind of go and say, okay, is there something physical that has happened? Because it's not just our mind having the panic attack, it's also a physiological response. And so when we come to this understanding and we come to this space of being able to ride through this anxiety, we also need to take that time and that grace to like look at our bodies and go, okay, hey, you know, I need to take care of my body as well. Like I should, and even like moving and stuff, because for me, because I was so mentally exhausted, I just was physically doing nothing. And so even muscular wise, like I wasn't functioning like I should, like slowly going for walks, you know, doing things just slowly, allow our bodies that like that slow time to kind of just build back up, because we've been depleting it for a really long time, especially like years. Like I'd been having panic attacks since I was like 11 years old. Like that's a long time for me to be having this experience. And there was one point where it was happening like every few days. Like it was constant, and my body eventually was just screaming at me, needing me to give it the care it needs, give it the nourishment it needs. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened it up for me to gain the understanding, to have the wisdom I needed to see it from both sides.
Mm, yeah, it's beautiful. There's so much wisdom in what you just shared in terms of listening to our body, not dismissing it, giving ourselves permission to care for ourselves in the manner that we need to. And I know as women, like this is a big thing of women struggling with saying yes to yourself, allowing yourself permission to advocate for yourself, give yourself what you need, whether it's rest, whether it's relaxation, whether it's kicking your feet up and doing nothing because you're just exhausted, you know, listening, taking a nap, you know, all that stuff. And why? Like, why can't we give ourselves permission to do that? You know, like, it's not like we're breaking a law or, you know, we're sinning or something, but sometimes I think we might even think of it that way. But that's another
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, because you know, society shows like the moms that do it all, the women that do it all, but you only see what people want you to see. You only see what people are putting out there. Like something has to give somewhere. And if it's not in a relationship, it's in your body, it's in your it's so many aspects of your life, maybe your family life. Like it's something it has to give. We all have the same amount of time in the day and the same amount of, you know, subhanAllah, like hours in the day was what I was trying to say. And yet we have this expectation of ourselves to be like super women and just do it all and experience it all and physically exhaust themselves. And I know there's so many women out there that just don't take care of themselves physically because they're taking care of the rest of the family. But if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not giving ourselves that space, like you can't give water from an empty cup. You know, when we are giving ourselves the space of, you know, I might need a nap, I might need a bath, I might need to just go for a little walk, like giving ourselves the time to say, and feeding ourselves properly, giving ourselves the proper nutrients, all of these things, we are actually benefiting everybody in our life, not just ourselves. But yet we feel like we have to do it all and somehow magically everything is going to fall into place. But
Yeah,
nobody's super, it doesn't
it's
work that
totally
way.
corrupt. And you're right. It's the messages we've received throughout our life and what's out there in society. And as I was hearing you, Melissa, I was thinking that two things. It's like, you know, all these things that you just described are actually an amana. Our health, our body, our energy, all of that, like we're accountable for. It's a gift and a trust, and our resources that we are depleting based on our choices. And it reminds me of also the verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to save ourselves, then others and our family members, right, from the fire. Well, it's like the oxygen mask. Again, if we don't put the oxygen mask on ourselves, we're completely useless. So we're going down and we're taking everyone else with us. And it's actually defeats the whole purpose of this Wonder Woman phenomenon, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's why so many relationships are struggling, because when we're not giving ourselves that self-care and we don't have, and if we're not giving ourselves like the space of having the wisdom to see ourselves and to truly see ourselves, it's very hard to show up for any relationship in our life. It's very hard for us to not overreact in relationships in our life. Like, it becomes very difficult for us to function in a way that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we are depleted and exhausted and not giving ourselves what we're telling, subhanAllah, with our kids, for example, you make them go to bed on time, you make sure they eat the right food, you make sure they have the proper things they need, you make sure that their behavior is good and all of these things. And yet for ourselves, we run on empty too often. And so for me, like, I wasn't even experiencing emotions anymore. Like, I was trying to be this, like, okay, just get through it. Don't deal with that. Don't deal with that. Get through it.
You completely numbed yourself out, which is a lot of women do that, especially moms. You don't feel anymore. You're just like a robot, like you said, going through the motions, numbed out, completely numbed out.
Completely. And that is a very dangerous space to be because subhanAllah, like if somebody, for example, you're in a relationship with somebody or like you have a friend or something and they've like, or even just somebody outside and they've like stepped over a boundary with you. When we're emotionally depleted, like we just are because we are physically depleted and we haven't been allowing ourselves the space to feel and we're trying to run on this like autopilot. In those moments, instead of us being able to speak in wisdom, instead of us being able to, talk about these things, instead of us being able to maybe stop a wrong that's happening to us, but in a very wise way, sometimes we end up becoming the oppressor. Sometimes we end up becoming, saying words that are way over their words, and yet we don't see it. And that's the scariest part, is that when we don't see it, because we are so depleted, we're not giving ourselves what we need. We don't have the wisdom to see that because we're so busy trying to go against the nature of who we are that we end up falling into these difficult situations in the relationships in our life because we're actually not seeing our part in it. We're not actually able to see, what is my role in this? Like, for example, somebody really, really oppresses you. Like, they do something completely unacceptable. SubhanAllah, it would be awful on the Day of Judgment for us to be standing next to that person and being told, no, you're the oppressor. Because we actually, with our words, went above and beyond. And so this person really oppressed you, but you ended up taking that step too far because you just didn't see it, because you were so depleted and so caught up in stories instead of seeing the reality that I am responsible for my actions and I am living in my thinking in the moment, and I also need to physically take care of myself. And all of those things together are such an important combination so that the relationships in our life, we come at them from wisdom. We don't come at them from these emotional, exhaustive places where it can become really, it can destroy relationships, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was talking about that yesterday when my topic was marriage, half your deen. I was talking exactly about what you just explained right now yesterday. So it's kind of ties in together. And, I was just thinking that the word, you just can't see it in those moments when you're not understanding how you operate, how you work, how our thinking works, how our feelings work, all of that. When we don't understand that, it really does. You're living in this haze or this misunderstanding that person, the one that triggered your feelings, is the cause, is the problem, right? And it takes everything, dumps it all out there rather than starting from in here. And that, you're right, that could be the worst thing of wronging someone else. Yeah, we wrong ourselves all the time, right? And
yeah,
we can correct that. We can correct that. When we wrong someone else, yeah, we can ask Allah for forgiveness, but we're not going to be forgiven until the person forgives us for who, for the person that we wronged, and that can be used against us on the Day of Judgment as well. And the tragedy is when we're not seeing it, because in those heightened emotions, we can feel very justified in our anger, in our lashing out, in our explosion of interactions, and that's a delusion, actually.
it is.
Yeah.
It's not just that moment. Like, we're bringing other moments to this situation. Like, because if you're not dealing with your thinking, if you're not allowing yourself to think, it's going to build up, right? So that build up comes out of this person. And so you feel like it's justified because they did a wrong to you. And they did a wrong to you, okay? It's not that they didn't do a wrong to you. Like, somebody actually has done something wrong to you. But the amount of stuff coming at them is not you dealing with that specific wrong. It's just this massive buildup of all these things that you haven't been dealing with, and it comes out. My mom used to say mouth vomit. Like it just comes out, like all sorts of stuff comes out of your mouth, and you're going, what just happened? Like, and subhanallah, and you can't take words back. Like you can apologize, you can try, but subhanallah, some things just people aren't willing to let go of, and it can't be unheard. And we don't want to be in a position to be doing that. So we have to look within ourselves. Like Allah does not change the state of a people till they change what's within themselves. We have to look within ourselves and go, okay, I'm in these moments and I'm having this rage and I'm having this anger. You know, what is it? And subhanallah, it's thought. It's thought. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I just wanted to say, Zara, thank you for that. She's saying you both are amazing, mashallah. And XOCHITL said, Jazakallah khair for the answer. So happy I joined the live. So thank you, Melissa, for answering that question. You know, I know we've been going for a while, and we just, this conversation has been so enlightening. And I hope that it's been helpful if you're watching it even on the replay. It's helped you to understand what's going on, and how, like, it's not about like coping or fixing it or spot treating it, if you will, you know. And so what do you like? I know that you've been through a journey, Melissa, and this is not like, okay, well, now I know how to fix it. We're not fixing anything because we're not broken. Now I know how to fix it. Now I know how to, like, I got this. And every time we think I got this, we get another layer, another level of, okay, you think you got it? You know, type of thing. Wait till your next layer gets unpeeled, you know? So I want to just like kind of close and end with, where is the starting point? Because I know that, you know, you've been through your own journey of what it looked like and what it looks like now, how you're experiencing anxiety, and it's not going away. You're just not fighting with it anymore, and it's passing, and you're learning something from it. So where's the starting point?
No, subhanAllah, for me, I was thinking the starting point was my intellect and I had to figure it out, and it wasn't working. And I realized through so much help, alhamdulillah, that what I was missing, the key that I was missing was dua. I wasn't asking Allah to guide me. I was asking him for help in so many aspects of my life, but when it came to my anxiety, for whatever reason, I had never actually made dua for Allah to help me with that. And like that heart felt like really, like when you're really connecting with Allah, dua.
Sincerity.
Oh yeah, the sincere, like that sincere space, right?
Yeah.
And that is first and foremost the starting point, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring the right people to you or the right situation to you for you to slowly start to gain the wisdom you need to get through these things and to gain clarity in these things. And we're human and we're in dunya, and so like this always the starting point is turning to him, because he knows what you need better than you know. Like how many times in our life we're asking for something and then we get something else, but it's actually exactly what we need. And so we start to kind of try to think, okay, this is what I need, and I need to do this and I need to do that, but we are very incapable of knowing what we actually need. Like some of the tests that I've had over the past little while, I never in a million years would have asked for, because they were really hard and painful and exhausting, and yet the end result was so beautiful because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one in charge. So that heartfelt connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first step in all of this.
I love that. And that's what we forget. We're like, what is it I need to do? What does I need to do? Just hold on a minute, pause and take a breath and step back and remember who is the owner, who's the controller, who's in charge, who's in control, who makes the sun go up and the moon come out, right? Like all of that stuff is, we always forget, like, okay, when we turn to Allah, you're absolutely right. Like he always sends us the people, the resources. What is it that we need to go on this journey and to learn what he's trying to teach us or what he's trying to show us? I find like that you start with there and then everything comes into your life. And one thing that you said I wanted to just touch on was, you thought you would just use your intellect and figure it out, right? How many times have I thought this myself? And I hear people say this, I need to figure this out, right? And I've heard this before from one of our colleagues. You can't think your way through it. You know, I think it was like Pia who said that. You can't think your way through it. We think, but again, what do we know, right? We think we have to figure it out, like we have the answers. And the reality is that we have limited human thinking that's only going to get us so far. And if we think we have to figure it out, we would have already figured it out, you know. It doesn't work that way. It's the guidance, it's the insight, it's the wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us when He's always sending it to us, but we get in our own way, our own thinking, and there's so many barriers that get in the way of us hearing His message. So instead, He sends the test louder and stronger or heavier until we get the message or we hear what He's trying to tell us. And that's also a misunderstanding, to think, oh, I need to think about it. No, because you're just going to keep recycling the same thinking over and over again, and you're not going to be able to figure out a solution with the same thinking that got you to this place you're stuck in the first place, right? And I think,
Absolutely.
Maybe you want to share a little bit about, a lot of times people are just hold themselves back or feel like, okay, well, I heard this and I heard that and I heard this, and now I'm just going to apply what I heard and figure it out.
That's what I thought I needed to do. Like for me, I've researched, like when I started to learn about panic attacks, I was like, okay, I'm going to become like a scholar in panic attacks. Like I just started going at it. And I was like, there's got to be some solution in knowing this, that I will somehow come to a way to not have anxiety in my life. Like that this will somehow have this magical solution, and then I will never feel these uncomfortable emotions, because I was making them into something so big, and I was putting myself in a position where I thought somehow I could control it by having the most amount of information and knowing every angle of it. And so somehow I would come to some logical conclusion, but we're not. This is not like just a logical world. Like we are also spiritual. We also have our, you know, that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we need to be, constantly striving for. And there are things in this life where no matter how much we try, no matter how much we push, no matter how much we know, we're not meant to go down that path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just kept closing that like intellectual door for me, like, nope, nope. Like, stop trying to go there. That's not how this works. Until subhanAllah, I started to learn about the inside out paradigm and just how our thinking works and the simplicity of it, like just how simple it is. Like we make things so complicated. We add so many layers to things that don't need to be there. Like so many times in our life, we're like, what should we do? Okay, but have you made dua? No. Okay. Right? It's such a simple thing, and yet it's so massive, right? SubhanAllah, understanding that our feelings are coming from our thinking. To me, intellectually, I was like, oh yeah, I get it. But then I was overthinking even that, overanalyzing even that, studying that. It doesn't work that way, because it's so much easier than that. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, I love that. Not that complicated. And us humans, we just love to make things complex and complicated. We think it's better that way or something. Alhamdulillah. Zara saying, subhanAllah, for these tests that bring us closer to Allah and enable us to become sincere. Alhamdulillah. I found that the biggest shift that I had that led to all the shifts in my life was sincerely and humbly coming back to Allah. It's like in utter desperation and humility.
Yeah.
Like when you're slammed and your face is rubbed in the mud, like type of thing. Like, where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna turn? Right? Yeah. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means. Like when something shifts within you, then your external circumstances will start. It opens a door to Him changing all of those things for you, because we can't do that. We don't have the power or ability. Our job is to focus on ourselves. What do we need to change? How do we need to grow? What needs to shift within us so that door of Allah's promise can open up for us? Zara saying, haha, I'm so guilty. Yeah, we all are. She's saying, oh, you're saying all the right things today, alhamdulillah. And that isn't that the
Come.
beauty of it, Melissa, is like we get what we need. Like whoever is here with us on this live or watching it later on the replay, like you are meant to hear what we're talking about. That it was just, you know, that's Allah's way of working to giving you what it is that you need. And it's like, it's not even us. We're just talking about our experience, but it's Allah. It's Allah. Allah is the source. You know, we could be the means.
Door. He's opening a door through. And that's the thing, like 100 of people could hear the same thing and everybody can take something different from it because we're all living in our own reality. We all have our own needs. We all have our own places in our life that we're working on. And so everybody can listen to something and take something away from it. And that's the beauty of this life, is that there's just so many opportunities. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly opening these doors for us to see what we need and to go, hey, go over here, try this. And, sometimes we're like slamming those doors shut, like, I don't want to. But subhanAllah, like, it's going to come one way or another because we're meant to learn these tests. And like when you were saying about like those moments where you're like, your face is on the ground in the mud, like, if you think about it, those are like some of the best times of your life. And I know that's like like, it doesn't sound right because it's like a miserable time in your life. But those moments when you connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like there's nothing like that. Like it literally gives me shivers. Like those moments of, Ya Allah, I know there's nobody on this earth or nothing on this earth that can help me but you. And you really are truly in the depths of your soul feeling that and needing to have that connection with him. Like those moments are so beautiful. They really, really are.
They are. I just got chills when you were explaining that, because the reason why that is, when your face and your head are in the ground, when you're at your lowest, and you recognize Allah's sublime, Allah's majesty, and how he, is the highest. That's why we say Allahu Akbar or Subhana Rabbi al-Ala when in sujood, right? Recognizing his greatness and his height. That's what raises our dignity. That's what raises our honor. In seeing our own humanness and being fallible, and knowing that Allah is the only one that can lift us and elevate us. We can't even do that for ourselves. We can't.
We couldn't even take a breath. Like right now, taking a breath, that's from Allah. Like everything's from Allah.
Yeah, it's
so
automatic.
Why when we are struggling in anything? Like, why are we not constantly turning back to him? It's such a simple solution, and yet we forget it because as humans, we get so caught up and so caught up and so caught up.
Yeah.
Distracted, and we feel we have to always do something. We feel we're somehow the ones, like drawing our life and the ones that are like coordinating everything. But at the end of the day, we're not. We're just on a journey, and in this journey, we're not in charge. We make choices, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides if they're going to happen or not. And so we need to just turn to him. We just need to turn to him.
Yeah. I love the last thing that you said about we make choices, right? And we're responsible for our intention and our action, whatever our choice is. But the outcome is in Allah's hands, because we don't even decide. We are not in control of the consequences of our choices. We think we are. We've been led to believe that, oh, because you made this and this and this choice, so now you have to accept the consequences of your choices. Yeah, we accept it, but we don't accept this because of us. We accept the qadr of Allah. We accept this is what Allah willed, that your choice and your decision led to this. We just get judged and graded on our intention and our effort. Was it pleasing to Allah? Was our intention even pleasing to Allah? And when we leave the outcome, we can be okay with however way it ends up. We don't have to fight that either. And it's such a calm and peaceful way to live.
Absolutely. But when we battle with ourselves, that time to see that. Oh,
sorry, I meant to remove that notification, and then it took me somewhere else. But I'm back. Yeah. Any closing thoughts, Melissa, or guys? Let us know your takeaways. You have any other questions? Thank you for your engagement, and Zara for all of your interaction here with us. Any closing thoughts on how we want to end this?
just the hopefulness of it, when we really truly are willing to hold a mirror up to ourselves and see ourselves for all the flaws, everything, who we actually are, and our accountability, and allow ourselves to just be human, allow ourselves to feel, allow ourselves to just flow with what we're meant to be going through, then we end up, inshallah, being able to live a life that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, we'll make mistakes. We're human. We're going to make a lot of mistakes daily, hourly. It happens. But if we're able to actually truly see ourselves, then we're able to turn back to Him and to ask Him to forgive us. And we're able to show up better for relationships, better to show up better in every aspect of our life. And that's really the goal, is how are we as a human? Like, are we living to our fullest potential? Or are we falling back on wanting to blame others and, falling into that thought pattern of, someone else is to blame for everything, when we can actually take that time to look at ourselves and really truly see ourselves for all the flaws and all the goodness, and alhamdulillah, understand this and feel it really changes every aspect of your life without you even trying. It just shifts absolutely everything.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have nothing else to say after that except this is Melissa Frost-Ford, and she is a Back to the Fitra educator, mentor, and coach. And you can follow her, reach out to her at Life Beyond Panic Attacks. I'm going to tag you here in this video. And, reach out to her for support or help if you're struggling with anxiety, whatever else. She's wonderful, mashallah. Jazakallah khair, Melissa, for joining me and for sharing your wisdom and your journey around anxiety, around anger, around, just helping us to see our humanness and the flaws and the beauty in that, no matter what we're dealing with.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
My pleasure. Okay, take care. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks, everybody.